All right, friends, let's go. If you got your Bibles, go ahead and open them up to Psalm 90. Psalm 90 is where we've been. Psalm 90 is where we're going to be for a little while. If you are new to Flourishing Grace, there's a blue Bible underneath your seat you're sitting in. If you didn't bring a Bible, you can reach down there and you can grab that. And Psalm 90, I think, is on page 551 in that blue Bible. If you don't own a Bible, like you don't have a Bible at your house, or maybe you have a Bible at your house, but it's in some crazy like old language that you're like, what? I can't understand this. Steal that one, right? You can just steal that one. You can tell all your friends that you stole a Bible from church. And you just got to let me know the reaction that you get from that. It'll be a lot of fun. That is our gift to you. Psalm 90, we have been in this now. This is our fifth week in Psalm 90. We've got three more to go. If you are brand new and you plan on kind of tracking through the rest of this series with us, I want to encourage you to go back and at the very least listen to last week's sermon. You can find it online, flourishinggrace.org/listen. We've been in this week. Psalm 90 is broken into two parts, right? And we have taken a deep dive into the first half of this psalm. And the first half is Moses. This is a psalm of Moses. And it's him setting the posture of our hearts and our minds on the right things so that we might be ready for the second half of the psalm. And now we're full on into it. Last Sunday was kind of this transition Sunday where we moved from the first half, recapped all of that, and moved into the second half. And now we're just moving. We're going into the second half. But if you didn't grasp the first half, it's going to be really hard. Like the second half, you might say, oh, that's interesting. But for it to actually take root and to be meaningful, I believe, and I think Moses, this is what Moses is doing. He's like, man, the first half is so important. If your heart and your mind are not set in the right way. And so what he does in the first half is he unpacks what Calvin calls the precarious condition of man, right? It's this idea that our lives are far shorter than we think. Our life is so fast. Moses says it's like a flood. It's like a dream. It's like grass. Like it's here today, it's gone tomorrow. It's like boom, boom, it's gone. Like the years of our life are just swept away. It's short, okay? Our lives are short. Our lives are also broken. They are not, Moses says, nothing but toil and trouble. Nothing but kind of little annoyances again and again and again. And you are born with a limited amount of worth, and there is nothing that you can do to add any more worth or any more value to your days. And yet we're all hungry for it. We all know that it's not enough. We need more worth. Because at the end of our days, this is the third piece, at the end of our days is a perfect and just holy God who will judge everyone according to what they've done. Romans 2. That's what waits for us at the end. So life is short, life is broken, and at the end of it all, there is a perfect and holy God who will judge us according to what we've done. Moses says that is the precarious condition of man, right? It's heavy. Okay? It's been a heavy first few weeks. But then in light of that, Moses kind of turns and he begins to give these, what I've been calling imperative request. Right? Typically it's an imperative command, right? It's like, do this, right? Or do that. But he's talking to God. So he's not bossing God around, right? He's begging God. There's an urgency to which Moses, given that life is short and life is broken, and that there's this infinite perfect judge that awaits me at the end of this, there's an urgency to what Moses is saying. And we began this last Sunday, right? The first imperative request was teach us to number our days. I need you. Teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. Teach me. I can't live another day of my life not rooted in this truth that my life is short. This day is the only day I have. All the ones that in the past are in the past, and all the ones in the future are not guaranteed. It's the only one I have. So teach me to number my days that I might live well in this day. Now, this morning we're going to look at the next two imperative commands that he gives. Okay, and they flow in a really fascinating order. There's an intent to the order in which Moses puts these, okay? And so we're going to look this morning at verses 13 and 14. And here's how it goes. Moses writes, or says, or prays, return. It's our first imperative command for today. Return, O Lord, how long? Have pity on your servants. Verse 14. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, that we may rejoice and be glad all of our days. And so those two imperative commands that we see there, right? Return and satisfy. That's what we're going to be looking at this morning. That's where Moses goes, right? He says, teach us to number our days that we may get a heart of wisdom. Return, O Lord. Return, O Lord, and have pity on your servants, right? Now, some of you might say, wait a second, hang on. Where did God go? Like, did he leave? Did he just say, you know what, you guys have fun. I'm going to go on vacation for a little while. I'll be back someday, right? No, right? Some of you would say, no, but how did God live? What does he mean, return, O Lord? Like, God's everywhere, right? Isn't he constantly always, isn't he here? Yes, he is, right? The psalmist says, where can I hide from your presence, right? Where can I hide from your spirit? In the heights of heavens, you are there. If I make my bed in Sheol, you are there, right? Wherever I go, it's where you are. So why does Moses say, return, O Lord? What is he getting at, right? Well, there is this constant, what theologians call this omnipresence, this infinite, constantly, always, everywhere presence of God. Nothing escapes him because he is everywhere. But at the same time, we see in Scripture again and again and again, God shows up in an actual unique way that is unlike his constant presence, right? Where he manifests himself, right? Whether that be in the burning bush or in the lion's den or in the fiery furnace or in a manger in Bethlehem, right? God shows up in a unique and special presence. And there's also this idea of our increased awareness of his presence. There are times when God increases our awareness of his presence. It might be in a corporate gathering such as this one. As we sing and declare the gospel over one another, there is an increased awareness of his already pre-existent presence. He's already here, right? But there's a heightened awareness of that presence. And that's a gift from God. It could be privately as we open the Word and as we begin to sense the promptings of the Spirit, as we begin to sense the conviction of our sin. Right, there's a special awareness of the presence of God that is increasing within us. In the 1600s, there was a Catholic monk, French Catholic monk named Brother Lawrence. If you've been around Flourishing Grace, you've heard us talk about Brother Lawrence. And Brother Lawrence became famous. He was not a well-known or established. He wasn't educated, right? He wasn't a priest or a bishop. He wasn't a cardinal or anything like that. He was the guy who washed dishes. That was his job. That's what Brother Lawrence did. And he would wash dishes, but he became known amongst the priests. And he became known amongst the bishops. And he became known even amongst the cardinals of the church. And they began to write him letters because he became well known as he had this ability to constantly live in this state of heightened awareness of God's presence. All day, every day, focused on the presence of God. And these high up officials in the Catholic Church would write this lowly monk and say, how are you doing that? Like, how do you do that? And then he wrote all these correspondence back and forth. And after his death, it was compiled into a book called Practicing the Presence. It's just a series of letters that were written between him and some other leaders in the church, kind of him explaining, man, here's what this looks like, this practice of the presence. And we actually have some copies of that on that shelf by the front door. And if you want, you can steal one of those too. You can tell all your friends you stole a book from church and a Bible. What's wrong with you? Go ahead. It's my gift. You can have one. Just grab it on your way out. But here's what Brother Lawrence says in that work. He says, the time of work, he said, is no different for me than the time of prayer. And the noise and the clatter of my kitchen, while several people are calling out at the same time for different things, I possess God in as great tranquility as if I were upon my knees at the Blessed Sacrament. He says, in that moment, when everybody's yelling and saying, I want more soup, and I want more of that, whatever it is, whatever, monks would yell in the kitchen, like there's clanging in pans and pots, and he's washing the dishes, and there's all kinds of things happening all around him. He says, in that moment, I am as near to God as I am on my knees before the Blessed Sacrament. Now remember, for the Catholic Church, right, the Blessed Sacrament is this literal kind of transfiguration of the body and blood of Christ into the literal body and blood of Christ. All right, you can't get any nearer than that, okay? And he says, no, I am just as near when I'm in the kitchen and there's just craziness going on all around me. And so these priests would write him and say, how do you do that? And in response to one, he says this, he says, let this person, the person who wants to attain this, let him think of God as often as he can. Let him gradually develop within himself this small but sacred practice. That's a key word, practice. Nobody notices it, and nothing is easier than to repeat these little internal adorations often during the day. Brother Lawrence says, man, during the day, I just turn my awareness towards his presence. And I do this again and again and again. And when I begin to let my mind and my heart slip away from that, I begin to forget that he's right here, right here. When I begin to forget, I just turn it back. There's no shame. There's no. I don't beat myself up. I just turn it back. Right? This is increased awareness of his presence, right? Constantly, always living in the presence of God. But for the nation of Israel, right? For the nation of Israel, God says, nope. No. When you seek to find my presence, you will not find it. When you seek to increase your awareness of it, you will not be aware of it. I am removing my hand. I am removing my presence from you. Now remember the context, right? Moses is praying this prayer to a generation of people who have been kind of cursed, right? They know they are not going to enter the promised land. A whole generation will die out before the next generation will lead them. Joshua will lead them in the promised land. And so they are wandering about in the wilderness, living in tents, kind of destined to never actually have any meaning or value. They're never going to enter. And so all they can do in this moment is just walk faithfully before God. God has removed their hand. A couple weeks ago we talked about the wrath of God, right? And so often we think of this act of wrath, God pouring out his wrath, kind of this anger, fire, brimstone, craziness. But often that's not often how it goes. It's more often what we see is a passive wrath, where because of the sin, and particularly the sin of pride, God says, fine. You want to worship golden calves and you want to practice the things of the other nations? Fine. Go ahead. You want to grumble and complain against me? That's fine. Go ahead. Right? Mary says in Luke 2 in the Magnificat, she says, you've scattered the proud in the desires of their hearts. For those who think they can do it, I can achieve it, I can do it, I can figure this out, I've got this, don't worry. I don't need anybody but myself, I've got this all figured out. God says, really? Really big stuff? Okay. And friends, let me tell you something. That is one of the most terrifying things that I can possibly begin to think of. God says, if you think you've got it, I'm going to let you think you've got it. You just go for that. He scatters the proud and the desires of their hearts. And this is what he's done with the nation of Israel. He's taken his hand away and he said, I'm just going to let you wander. I'm just going to let you kind of do your own thing. And you can try to fulfill all of your longings. You can try to fulfill all of your desires. You can try and succeed in all the ways that you think you need to succeed. You can try for all of your days to add meaning and worth and value. You can try for all of your days to believe that life is long. And you can try for all of your days to try to earn my acceptance. And I'll just sit back and watch. Let you do what you think. And so Moses, what's happening here is Moses cries out. He says, have pity on us. Have pity on us. I know we have wronged you. I know we have sinned against you. I know we do not deserve it. Have pity on us. Mercy. Mercy. I give up. I give up. Moses is looking inward and he sees his life. He sees the precarious condition of man. Life is short and life is broken and judgment awaits us. And he quickly realizes, as many of you have, if you've been tracking with us over the past few weeks, that there is no hope for us outside of God. You can't add any more meaning. You can't add any more value. You can't add any more purpose to your days. It's not there. There is no hope for you in that final day of judgment apart from God. There is no hope for you. And life is rushing by. And so Moses cries out. It's kind of the natural cry. Teach us to number our days. This is the only one I have. This one right here. Teach me to number my days because I want to live this day well. The next natural thing when you realize that this is the only one you have, this is the only one you can invest, you realize I can't invest it well. I will certainly fail to invest this day well unless God shows up. Return, O Lord. Return. How long? Have pity on your servants. Because even though you might teach me to number my days, and I might grow in a heightened awareness that this day, this one right here, is the only one I've got. I don't have any other ones. I can't control the past. I can't control the future. But this one is the one that's been given to me and entrusted to me by you. You've taught me to number my days. I will squander it. I will fail. I will spend it on all the wrong things unless you show up. I'm desperate for you. Return, O Lord. Help me. I can't do this without you. Moses realizes that he needs the nearness and the presence of God more than he needs the breath in his lungs, more than he needs the blood that flows through his veins. Return, O Lord. I can't do it. Now, real quick, before we move on to satisfy, here's the reality. For some of you in the room, your life right now, you have been spinning your wheels. You have been trying, and you look around you and you see people who have these, what we would call here at Flourishing Grace, flourishing relationships with Jesus. You see vibrancy and you see depth, you see joy and delight in their relationship with Jesus. You say, man, I can't figure it out. Like, why isn't that working for me? And I want to argue this morning that it very well may be that in your pride, and I say this with great love for you, in your attempt to do it all on your own, in your attempt to say, man, I can figure this out, and I can make this happen. I can grow my faith, and I can do all these things, and I can. God says, okay, let's see how it goes. And he's bringing you to the end of yourself, where you would say, I can't. Where the cry of your heart would be, return, O Lord. And maybe that needs a shift in you. From, I can do this, I got this. No, I know my marriage it's rough right now, but we've got it. We've got it all figured out, right? I know this thing going on with my kids is really hard, but you know what? They'll get it all sorted out. It's not a big deal. No, we've got this. Don't worry about it. How are you doing? I'm fine. Maybe your language needs to turn to, I just need presence. Return, O Lord. I don't want to live another day without you. If you're not in this, if you're not in my marriage, it's going to fail. If you're not in my relationship with my kids, it's going to fail. And if you are not building me up and you are not drawing me near, I will not come a step nearer to you. I will not. I need you. I need your presence. For others of us, there is an urgency. For others, we need to begin daily seeking the presence of God with a higher urgency, right? We've been a people who God has not removed his hand from, who's not taken his presence away, but we've failed to, as Brother Lawrence says, practice the presence. We've failed to kind of routinely turn our awareness towards his presence. And therefore, in our lack of awareness of his presence, we are squandering our days on lesser things. And we'll get to that in a minute. But we need to begin to kind of practice what the church has called for a long time, the daily office. This idea of morning and evening, and even throughout the day, this kind of daily liturgy, ordering our day around him, ordering our day around increasing our desire for him, and order our day around increasing our awareness of his presence. And maybe it looks like just but when you get in the car in the morning to go to the office, before you turn on the car, you just sit. You turn your awareness towards his presence. And when you get to the office, before you get out of your car, you just sit. And you turn your awareness towards his presence. Maybe you need to set an alarm on your phone a few times a day that's just going to go off. And you turn your awareness towards his presence. Father, I know you're here. You are everywhere. And if I am not aware of you, then the next few moments of my life will be squandered. I'll go into this meeting thinking that I can achieve and I can get it done and I'm going to do it and everything's going to be great because I'm great. Everything's going to be perfect because I'm perfect. I will squander it. Teach me to number my days. Return, O Lord, in this moment. I need your presence. We need to increase our awareness of his presence. And then the next cry of Moses is this: satisfy. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love. The next thing we need to find is complete some satisfaction in him, right? Why? What's going on here, right? Moses says, teach us to number our days. Return, O Lord, satisfy. Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love. It is our dissatisfaction, friends, that leads us to wasting our days. It is a dissatisfaction in God that increases our longing to be satisfied and increases our attention towards the things of this world to fill that satisfaction. When we are not satisfied, when our hearts are not resting in him, right, they're constantly wandering about trying to find something that will satisfy them. And so we squander our days pursuing lesser things. Every day we are people who are continuously seeking to be satisfied. This needs to be whole and complete and satisfied. This need in us, this deep-seated need in every single human being to be whole and complete and satisfied, it costs us. It costs us so much, and we never see it. We seek to be satisfied in our work. If I can just make this sale, if I could just become the lead saleswoman or the lead salesman in my office, then I would be satisfied. If I could just reach this level, if I could just get this job, then I would be satisfied. If I could just make it to this point in my career, then I'd be satisfied. And so we work long hours, or we are a tyrant at work, and we neglect all these other things in seeking to be satisfied in something that's never actually going to satisfy us. I need to be satisfied in my marriage. And so I put all kinds of pressure on my spouse to be someone who they were never meant to be. I put so much pressure on them to be the one who satisfies me, and yet they were never meant to be the one who fully satisfies me. I need to be satisfied in my kids. And so I put this pressure on my kids to be someone who's going to bring me satisfaction. That pressure is going to crush them. They cannot bear the weight of that. I need to be satisfied in my friendships. Your friends can't bear the weight of that. I need to be satisfied in my possessions, my home, my car, my clothes. Those things will never satisfy. They will always leave you wanting for more. In a few years, you'll need to want a new car. In a few years, you want a new home or to redesign your home. In a few years, you want new clothes because there's a new stuff. It'll never satisfy. It'll always leave you hungry for more. I need to be satisfied in my body and how I look. I need to be satisfied in my social media presence. Satisfy me in the morning as I reach for my phone first thing and check to see how many likes my post from yesterday got me. Constantly longing to be satisfied. And yet, if we are honest, we live most of our days unsatisfied. We tell ourselves it's because I don't have, fill in the blank, whatever you want to put in there. I don't know what it is for you. It's different for you than it is for me. But the reason I'm not satisfied is, fill in the blank. Something in your career, something that you don't own, someone in your life, fill in the blank. Why are you not satisfied? Constantly moving from one thing to the next to the next. Over the past few weeks, my oldest son, Winston, has developed a renewed obsession with Pokemon, okay? It's like it's on again, off again relationship for him. It's like we've tried to get him to just like make a clean break, but he just can't seem to like release his grasp from Pokemon. It just keeps coming back. It's like Legos and then Pokemon and then like sports, right? So he's like moving from one thing to the next to the next. And somehow he like found out that there's like this one I don't understand Pokemon at all. It's like of the devil. I'm not quite sure. I can't figure it out. It's demon stuff. I can't. Don't touch it. There's this one Pokemon card that's out there in the universe, and you can get it, and it's buried within this pack. And they sell this pack, and you got to buy the pack to get this one card. But the card is only in one out of every like 1,000 packs. Okay. Now, trying to explain to my 7-year-old how this is all a marketing scheme to get him to buy multiple of the same packs that he doesn't really want. Right? You get one, that's all you need. You don't need more. But trying to get him to understand this has been an absolute beast for me. Like I sat him down the other day for a good like 20 minutes explaining to him, like, buddy, okay, so you buy the pack, you spend the $10 and you get the pack, right? And it's not in there. Now what do you have to do? He's like, well, I have to buy another one. Yeah. But if it's not in that one, then what do you have to do? Well, I have to buy another one. Well, how are you going to get the money? Well, I got to save my money and buy another. Yeah, but it's not in that one. Then what do you got to do? You say, well, maybe I could go to like the used Pokemon store, like, and buy it. And so we go to the used Pokemon store because I want him to see. I want him to know. Say, how much does that cost? Guess how much that card costs? One card, $200. Like, buddy, you are throwing your life away. You will never be satisfied, right? It's all a game. And they know. They have figured it out. They know how to manipulate 7-year-olds, okay? They've got it all figured out. They're geniuses, okay? And I can't hate them for it. They've got it figured out. But I'm like, bud, like, you've got to realize this. And yet at some point this week, as I was thinking about this, I realized that's exactly what we're doing. Endlessly buying the same stupid deck trying to become satisfied. And it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. We've created this little illusion in our brain that it's in the next deck. It's in the next deck. I just got to buy one more. It's certainly in the next deck. And it's so obvious when we break it down for a 7-year-old. But as adults, we're constantly doing this. Always, constantly, never actually satisfied. As a people of God, whose hearts are not supremely satisfied in his supreme love and beauty, we will be a defective people. A people wasting the precious and little time we have, chasing lesser loves, rather than finding that which we were created for. You were created to be fully satisfied in him and him alone. And until you are satisfied in him and him alone, you will constantly be chasing lesser things to satisfy you. This is a part of the precarious condition of man. Just wasting every day, chasing lesser things. The Westminster Shorter Catechism, the first question, right, is that what is the chief end of man? And the answer being the chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him forever. And those two things are linked. They are attached to each other, right? The glory of God happens when we find our deepest satisfaction in him. And we find our deepest satisfaction in him when we glorify him. And that is our end. That is the chief end of man. That is what we do. It's what we are designed to do. It's what we were created to do, to glorify him. And in glorifying him, finding our deep satisfaction in him. Finding our delight in him, full joy and full delight, full satisfaction in him. This is our great purpose and our great end. John Piper, who's a pastor and theologian in Minneapolis, Minnesota, has written much on this, maybe more so than anyone in recent years. He says this, he says, God is the one being for whom self-exaltation is the most loving act, because he is exalting for us what alone can satisfy us fully and forever. If we exalt ourselves, we are not loving because we distract people from the one person who can make them happy forever, God. But if God exalts himself, he draws attention to the one person who can make us happy forever, himself. He is not an egomaniac. He is an infinitely glorious, all-satisfying God, offering us everlasting and supreme joy in himself. You see, friends, to be satisfied in God is to live rightly as you were created to be. To live any other way is to fail, and to be hungry for the wrong things all of your days, to squander your present moment. And so as God teaches us to number our days, we see our need for him. Return, O Lord, I need you. And then we see our longing to be satisfied. And we see how much we're squandering that in so many little things. Moses is linking these things together and building one upon another upon another. I love how he qualifies it. He says, in the morning, with your steadfast love. That's what I need. Satisfy me in the morning with your steadfast love. The God of all things, we do not need a God who is a once-a-year God. Like, we don't need a Christmas and Easter God. Satisfy me on Christmas with your steadfast. No. We don't need a weekly God, right? Or a monthly God, right? The average American attends church about once a month now. We don't need a monthly God. We don't even need a weekly God. We need a daily God. Every morning, satisfy me in the morning with your steadfast love. Give us this day our daily bread. Today, I need to be satisfied in you. I need to find my rest in you. I need to find the end of all my longings in your great and steadfast love. And it's there every day. His love is steadfast every hour, every minute. His love is there. In your darkest hours, in your most glorious moments, his love is 100% the same, 100% of the time, always infinitely there for you. Steadfast. It's new every single morning, right? The famous, well-known verse from Lamentations. It's on so many coffee cups and cheesy pieces of art that you hang in your house that look ridiculous, but you do it anyways. Lamentations 3:22 through 23, it says this. It says, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. It's constant, always. It's never. It's like a steady, full waterfall of love. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. Some of you would say, but Josh, I just don't feel that. Like I have loved Jesus for a long time, and there's been moments where I have felt that, where I felt the waterfall just crashing over me, but it just seems like a drip now. Like I don't understand. I can't get the water to come out of the tap. What's going? I don't understand. Here's the thing about that verse in Lamentations. We love to put it on a coffee mug. We love to quote it. His mercies are new every morning. It sounds so good. But we never read it in its context. Let's just back up a few verses, and let me give you 10 verses in that chapter real quick. Let's go 13 through 23. It reads this way. He drove into my kidneys the arrow of his quiver. It starts off cheerful. I have become the laughingstock of all people. It gets better. The object of their taunts all day long. He has filled me with bitterness, and has filled me with wormwood. He has made my teeth grind on gravel, and made me cover in ashes. My soul is bereft of peace. There is no peace in me. I have forgotten what happiness is. So I say, my endurance has perished. So is my hope from the Lord. I have nothing left to give. Remember my afflictions and my wantings, the wormwood and the gale. My soul continually remembers it and is bowed down within me. Verse 21. But this I call to mind, and therefore I have hope. One thing, the one reason I still have hope, the steadfast love of the Lord never ceases. His mercies never come to an end. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. God's love is steadfast. It is not something that we just say flippantly. It's not something you can just put on a coffee mug and say, that sounds good. No, in the dark hour of your soul, when there is nothing left, when there's nothing left, it's always constant. It's always on full effect. It is always pressing in. It is always washing over us. And when everything else is removed, it will never be removed from you. It'll never be removed from you. Job, who lost everything in an instant, in a moment, he goes broke. This wealthy, well-to-do man loses everything. He is cast out of the city. He loses his health. He loses his wealth. He loses his friendships. He loses his family. His wife says, curse God and die. Job says, you have granted me life and steadfast love, and your care has preserved my spirit. I've lost it all, but I still got one thing, and that one thing is enough to preserve me, your steadfast love. In the darkest hour of darkest hours, I have the thing that I need, your steadfast love. The psalmist says it this way in Psalm 106, praise the Lord, oh give thanks to the Lord, for he is good, for his steadfast love endures forever, forever. God longs to satisfy his people in his steadfast love. The steadfast love of the Lord is the driving force behind the work of salvation. His steadfast love sent his Son to die. His steadfast love has sent his Spirit to fill us. His steadfast love leaves the 99 to find the one. His steadfast love for us keeps us from being snatched from his hand. His steadfast love for us will return for us and call us home. His steadfast love is what kept Jesus on the cross for you. At any moment, any point in time, he could have said, no, I'm done. But with the great love with which he loved you, he said, I'm staying. For the joy set before him, he endured the shame. He endured the cross, despising the shame. He said, I love you. I'm not going anywhere. And every morning, that love for you is constant. And it is the only thing that can fully satisfy us. The steadfast love is the end of the hunger for more. When we are filled with it, when we know it, when we remind ourselves of it, and we strive to be filled with the steadfast love, it is the end of our hunger for more. And all of the things that we find little bits of satisfaction in, like our marriage, like our career, like our job, are actually satisfying. When the foundation of a steadfast love is there, when we have this rock to stand on, when my soul rests in him and it rests in a steadfast love, I find more delight in my job. I find more delight in my kids. I find more delight in my marriage. I find more delight in my friendships because I'm fully satisfied in him. And all of those little things are good pleasures and gifts from his hand. They're not the thing that I need to satisfy me. I have my satisfaction in him. So we strive to be near him. Return, O Lord. And we strive to be satisfied in him, so that we will not squander this day, because apart from him, we most certainly will. If you want to live out your short life well, seek his presence. Satisfy yourself with him every morning in his steadfast love. Let me pray for you. Father, right now, in this moment, in this moment, return to us. For those who do not know your presence, for those in the room who would say, man, you are far off. For those in the room who have turned to their pride to accomplish their things, to satisfy their bellies with the things of this world, and they said, I've got this. Would you bring them to the end of themselves, to the place where they would say, return, O Lord. As we number our days, as we say, I know that this is the only day I have. And apart from you, I will squander this one. Return, O Lord. And would you satisfy us? Would you satisfy us today in your steadfast love? Would we be overwhelmed by your mercy, your kindness, and your affection towards us in Christ? Would we look at the cross and say, man, that right there, that is unlike any love the world has ever known. Would our hunger and our appetite for the things of this world grow strangely dim as you increase our understanding of your love for us. Satisfy us this morning in your steady and constant love. These things in the name of Jesus.